My name is Angelique, and I will be doing my topic on grammar. Grammar is simply rules for language, the system of rules by which words are formed and put together. Fragments are a group of words that pretends to be a sentence, but is not a complete thought. Example, when you finally take the test, the reader asks the question because he or she needs to know more information. So what will happen when you finally take the test? The reader still doesn't know because it's not a complete thought. You can fix a fragment by attaching another sentence, or you can add a subject, verb, or both. You also have run-on sentences. They are independent clauses that have not been joined correctly. Example, my favorite spread is human. It is very garlicky. In this example, I put two independent clauses in one sentence, which is not the correct way. In order to fix this situation, I could either fix it by putting a semicolon behind human to make it two complete thoughts. My favorite spread is human. It is very garlicky. In the second example, I again put two complete thoughts into one sentence. We are leaving the house. The door had to be locked. On this one, I choose to put a period behind the word house, and you can make it into two complete sentences with the correct punctuation, and that would also be correct. If I chose to, I could also add a coordinating conjunction, um, and by doing that, I would just simply add a comma behind the word human, and then choose the word and. My favorite spread is human, and it is very garlic. Subject verb agreement. The basic rule states that a singular subject takes a singular verb, while a plural subject takes a plural verb. The subject and verb must agree with one another in number. I have listed some examples below. There are different types of verbs agreement. A phrase or clause between subject and verb doesn't change the number of the subject. They still must agree whether it be plural or singular. Indefinite pronouns, like the example I used in number 2, each does a good deal of work around the office. If you use the indefinite pronoun as your subject, which is the word each, they take singular verbs. And some examples would be anybody, anyone, and each, like the one I used in number 2. So each does. So does would be the verb, and it has an S on the end. And some of the plural forms would be several, few, both, or many. Things that are countable, like collective, like in the number 6 example, jury has awarded the custody to the grandmother, they're acting as one. So in that case, it would take on a singular verb. Things that are countable, such as marbles, would take on a plural verb. Some of the marbles are on the floor, like in example number 3. Compound subjects joined by "and" are always plural, so you would use a plural verb. Compounds joined by "nor" or are verbs with subjects, they would agree with the subject closest to the verb. So if the second one would be "nor," the verb would agree with whatever comes after "nor." Collective nouns such as group, jury, may be singular or may be plural depending on the meaning. Like the example number 6, the jury has awarded custody to the grandmother. It is acting as a unit, therefore the verb is singular. If they are acted as individuals, like the example in number 5, how are the relatives taking the bad news? They are acted as individuals, and the verb would be plural. Pronouns are a pronoun is a word that substitutes for a noun. When choosing an antecedent agreement, a singular antecedent needs a singular pronoun, and a plural antecedent needs a plural pronoun. Example: Bill took his hat. Bill is singular, so therefore you would use a singular pronoun, which is his. In the example, the girls read their book. Girls are plural, so therefore you would use a plural pronoun, which would be their. In case, when choosing a pronoun to be part of a compound phrase, temporarily leave out the other half of the compound. Example: in the example Julie and I or Julie and me, you would simply leave off Julie and read the sentence with the second half of the compound. I went shopping in Atlanta last weekend, or me went shopping in Atlanta last weekend. I is obviously the correct choice for that example. Adjectives modify nouns and pronouns. An adjective describes a noun by answering one of three questions. What kind? The mood ring turns purple in the sun. What kind of ring? Mood ring. How many? Or which one? The flowers are blue. Blue describes what kind of flower, and it would be blue. Adjectives can be single words, phrases, or a clause. Adverbs are traditionally defined as words that describe verbs. Adverbs answer any of the following questions about verbs. How? Herman easily lifted the barbell. Easily is how Herman lifted it. When? Where? In the second example, she hid the key nearby. Answers the question where. And it also would answer the question why. The most movable part of speech is the adverb. It is difficult to identify in a sentence because of that reasoning. Most adverbs end in ly. Most adverbs are formed by adding ly to the adjective. Verb tense. There are three basic times when verbs can take place, which is present, past, and future. You have three different, all English verbs also have three perfect tenses. You have simple, perfect, and progressive. To form the perfect tense, all you would have to do is add a helping verb such as have, has, had, will to the past particle of the verb. Example: have played would be the present tense. The present tense, the past tense would be had played, and the future would be will have played. Progressive form, that just means that they show an action that is in the process or that is continuing. Are playing, were playing, will be playing. To form this type of verb, you would just simply add one of the forms of the verb to be with the present particle of the verb. The present particle ends in ly. And that concludes my discussion topic on grammar.